The transportation sector in Nigeria is one that needs a lot of improvement in order to facilitate the movement of people effectively and safely. With the constant road congestion due to bad roads, water transportation is one safe and fast alternative that should be explored more often. But how safe is our waterways? Just earlier this week, 2 adult females lost their lives in a boat mishap that occurred at Ikorodu when their boat submerged following the departure from Ikpakodo ferry terminal in the morning. The 20 other passengers with the 20-capacity boat passenger was conveying 17 passengers when the boat capsized due to suspected mechanical fault and submerged following its departure from the terminal. During the intense operation, 15 persons were rescued alive by a combined team of water guards and searchlight rescue team. Lagos State Waterways Authority, LASWA, and LASEMA response team mobilized to the scene of the incident. So joining us now on the morning show to find out what our state government is doing to guarantee the safety of people who apply this means of transportation is Oluwadamilola Emmanuel, General Manager of Lagos State Waterways Authority, LASWA. Welcome to the show. Very sad occurrence, but it looks as though there are lots of boat mishaps in Lagos. And I feel really particularly concerned about that case because I used to be on that, boat line many years ago. I used to do that trip a lot because I had something doing around that area. And I would always take the boats. But a lot of people are saying there's massive underinvestment in this sector. On this stretch that goes to Ikorodu, we don't have lighthouses, so people can't even commute in the night. What is happening? A lot more needs to be done.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. First of all, let's commiserate with those who lost loved ones because it's really a sad event. Every time we make some progress on the waterways and this happens, it sets us back, and we're never happy about it. But the state government has intensified efforts in terms of safety because we know that we need to encourage passenger confidence. And some of the things we've been able to do is increase the presence of the water guards, which was key to even what happened at the Ikorodu a few days ago. Apart from that as well, very soon we're just about to commission a control room, a monitoring and the data center, which will enable us to be able to monitor real-time everything that's going on the waterways. This is the first time this is happening anywhere in West Africa, and inland waterways control room, and it's all in a bid to ensure that we can respond much quicker to safety, because we believe that once the safety and security is sorted out, then we can increase the drive on the waterways. In terms of investment, we've seen significantly that it's a sector largely dominated by the informal sector. And that informal sector, we have now organized them to form a cooperative because without forming the cooperative, there's no way government was going to invest in fragmented services. So we've just done that as well. And now we're attracting the investment to get better ferries, larger capacity ferries, without necessarily chasing away the informal sector.
Right. Can you tell us more in terms of details when you just talked about the increased presence of water guards? And that accident was attributed to some kind of mechanical failure. Can you take us through your fleet maintenance procedures?
Yeah, absolutely. So usually what we've been able to do, because as you know, like I just mentioned, that is predominantly dominated by the informal sector. What we do is ensure that we do what we call a biannual inspection. This is twice a year. But then we realized that was not enough. We need to carry out random inspections because that's the only way you can catch them unawares. So we carry out random inspection of all these boats at the different locations where they are because we have our presence of our water guards there and a monitoring and a patrolling team as well. Now, prior to that as well, we also ensure that these boats, whenever they have any issues, they must not be allowed to move until they repair those parts of the boat that have those issues. Now, if anything happens, in case of any emergency, we've trained, even the captains and the deckhands know that in case of any emergency, you must ensure, first of all, that your passengers understand what is going on. It's a place of panic. I know there'll be a lot of panic and a lot of issues, but you must ensure that the first thing you must do, which is very important to us, is the life jacket wearing. And that's why we encourage life jacket wearing, because in case of any emergency, that life jacket will save you. And that's what actually saved the 15 people who were rescued. The two ladies, apparently, the life jackets were not on them. So this is just an assumption, but it happens a lot, especially with the female folk. What happens when they get on the boat is that sometimes they get hot or they might just want to unbuckle it a bit. But we always advise against not unbuckling it because it's the minimum amount of safety you can have on the waterways.
I'm sorry, I just want to go back to that.
Yes.
So it's every passenger is compelled to wear the life jacket.
Yes,
You're certain of
every
that?
passenger. Yes,
So it's the individuals themselves who decided.
They decide when they get on the boat. Sometimes they get hot, or then I tell them, look, for this journey, just make sure you wear your life jacket and don't in any way take it out at all, please, because it's very, very important. It will keep you safe in case of any emergency.
That's so sad.
So I have plied this water a lot, and I know the raft is not that deep. I mean, because I'd had a mishap, a boat mishap, where the engine had some material,
that rolled into
it.
It could be dirt,
and we had to stop.
You have to get the dirt out.
But getting the dirt out,
Yes.
they told us that, this part of the water isn't deep enough, so come down. So in the middle of the water, we came down and we put our legs down, and actually we were touching land, in the middle of the water. So what would you do as regards the situation, of the raft not being deep enough, picking up things like water hyacinth? That's always a big problem.
Okay, good. Let's talk about the fact of what you just spoke about, which is the depth. Now, generally across the waterways, people just see the waterways and think that, everywhere is navigable. No. That's the reason why the state government every year carries out what they call channelization. Channelization involves dredging and also putting what we call like marker buoys, which are green and red to show you where to go and where not to go. Now, as you keep doing that, there's something called maintenance dredging. So when you dredge this year, you do a maintenance dredging the following year to ensure that those routes are navigable, which is why for us, we always prioritize the main route, which is Ikorodu to the island. Now we're seeing a lot of Badagry to the island. We're seeing it now. We're not even seeing Badore to the island to decongest Lekki Ekpe Expressway. And the second thing you spoke about as well in terms of water hyacinth. Now, what have we done? Water hyacinth is something which is in a lot of countries. However, what we've done is identified, where does the water hyacinth mostly affect our boat operators? We find those locations and we carry out what we call pegging. It's called a pegging system. I just wish we could have some images, but it's called a pegging system. Like, for example, Ikorodu is always hardly hit by that water hyacinth. Yeah. So we peg about 10 kilometers away so that the water hyacinth doesn't affect them at the terminal, because when it's in the open water, there's not really much you can do about it. It's going to come. And now we even have recyclers. We have people who take this water hyacinth and actually make them into marketable products. So we have a company which we've partnered with for the last 4 years called Mitimeth, who transforms the water hyacinth, even through empowering women in communities. Because what they do is the women and the children who get trained in how to pick this water hyacinth, turn them into marketable products, and then they can sell within the community as well.
Well, you spoke earlier about how tragedies like this could create a setback. Yes. How will you avoid having that happen? Based on the sort of growing confidence, and it is growing, in sort of water transport, and exactly where do you fit in the themes agenda of Governor Sanwo-Olu with regards to transport and traffic management?
Good. Well, I must really thank the governor, because the governor has actually enabled us to be able to build the safety systems, and I wanted to give a bit of some figures. Prior to about 5 years ago, what would usually happen is that on an average, there will usually be about 12 to 14 incidents on the waterways. Last year was actually the year which saw us drastically reduce the amount of accidents on our waterways because of the following things. One, the increase of the water guards' presence. Two, our upgrading of the search and rescue services. Three, awareness and sensitization. Four, donation of life jackets. And fifthly as well, being able to ensure that people know what to do in terms of emergency. So we have strategic partnerships with Ministry of Health, LASEMA, and several other agencies. And we've been able to also benchmark other countries. The British and the French are solidly behind the current waterways developments in Lagos State.
All right. So secondly, I'd like to ask you two things. Number one will be about night commute along that Ikorodu-Badore axis. We don't have lighthouses. I have not seen anyone. And secondly, I'd also like to talk to you about things like that can ensure that, we have more safety on the waterway. Take, for instance, regulation of the boat owners. There are some boat owners there that use boats that the shafts underneath are torn, actually. And that the, what is it called? Because most of them are made out of fiberglass.
Fiberglass,
the fiberglass of the boat on the side, it's torn and it doesn't get stability. And they're telling you to move from one side of the boat to the other to be able to get stability and the likes.
Yes. So first of all, let's talk about night travel. I'm sure you know there was a ban put on night travel, which is not just a state thing, but was actually a federal thing because of some issue that happened at the Atlas Cove years ago. And what we've also done, because we know that the waterways are not lit.
But people still travel in the night.
Yes, so
some boats still leave as late as 7, 8 p.m.
Yes, however, if they are caught, they are penalized. And we make sure they face those stiff penalties. Even just yesterday, I don't know that you heard about it, but one of the boat captains who caused an accident in 2020 was actually sentenced to life imprisonment.
Yes,
because we no longer would allow crew complacency or any crew just be careless and then waste people's lives. And that's why we've come out more stiffer now and be able to introduce that. But I want to speak about the night travel. So we generally for now have banned night travel because we know that there are several dangers in traveling at night. One, is not well lit. Two, there are a few wrecks, and if you don't know the channel appropriately, you will not be able to navigate through. So we just said, you know what, the last trip must emanate 6 o'clock or 6:30, depending on how long it will take you to reach your destination. So we have put an embargo on that. But however, like you're very right, people will still break the rules, and that is why if they break the rules, then you face the full wrath of the law. Now, in terms of the second thing you spoke about, in terms of safety and how do we keep improving safety, for me, we just have to keep doing what we can do as government, but we need as well as much support as well from the private sector. And when you spoke about the boats, you're very right about those boats, which is why I said to you, we carry out the biannual inspection and the random inspection, because random inspection is where we catch a number of people who deliberately, you know that there's something wrong with the boats. Why would you want to take that risk just because of how much are you going to make? So we are definitely coming much harder on them. What we know is a sector that is thriving. So at the same time, we have the carrot and the stick approach, because we also have to find ways to support them, because they actually need support, because water transportation is actually a very capital intensive sector. In terms of the boats engines, we just had meetings with Yamaha, because 95% of the engines in Lagos are Yamaha, and Yamaha actually came in and said, look, okay, how can we help with this? We said, yes, we have to be able to help because your engines are ridiculously expensive. So how can you bring these prices down so that we can have some kind of system that also encourages even the boat operators as well?
So you talked about those random checks there. What are the kind of penalties that you impose if people are using boats that they should not be using? For example, with this latest tragedy, yes, what's going to happen? Tell us the process, the investigation.
Good.
What next?
So first of all, the boat is grounded. The boat doesn't go anywhere, and it's kept in our yard or within any of our jetties, because we know because of fueling, we might need to tow it with our own boats. So first of all, it is grounded, right? Secondly, we give them a repair list, right? Because we say, okay, you must go and repair. And after you repair it, then we carry out the inspection to see that you've done what you should do. Then we can allow you operate. But at the same time, as well as grounded, they pay a fine as well, which goes into the coffers of government as well.
So let's talk about cost and pricing of tickets. You know why I say that? Because of the uncertainty with petrol price.
Yes.
And we all know that for a boat that takes 15 to 17, for instance,
yes,
for a one-way trip, it will take 50 liters of petrol, maybe from like Adax here to Ikorodu.
Yes.
It will take 50 liters of petrol and coming back and the like.
Yes.
Is there anything the government is doing as regards, ensuring that, prices are pegged? Because a lot of Lagosians want to use that.
Well, as you know, some things are not within the confines of the state, unfortunately. But what are we doing? Because largely, water transportation is a sector that is subsidized all over the world for it to be.
And is there insurance for the sector, like to bear liabilities for people that die?
Yes. They actually, each operator actually does insurance, has insurance. Part of the things we check as well when we do our inspections. But in terms of the pricing, it's one of those things that, in terms of the petrol price, it's one of those things that, of course, we've not been able to control. But what we've been able to do is even provide accessibility to petrol, because I don't know whether you know, but for the longest time possible, it was kegs that were used to fuel the boats.
Yes.
But right now in Falomo here, we have the very first of its kind floating fuel station, which allows them fuel by the waterways. And then we didn't just stop there. Through our partnership with the Bila Oil and Gas, which is also a state agency, we are now spreading that to Ijegun-Egba, which covers the Ojo axis, which is very, very prevalent water transportation, and also one in our Pakodo terminal, which is also Ikorodu, to cover that whole Ikorodu axis. So we cover Ikorodu, we cover Ojo, and we cover the island. So that way, they have more access to be able to get fuel much easily, as opposed to carrying kegs, which is a real danger to the society.
Yeah, that's really important. So in terms of transportation, all anybody's looking for really is to get from A to B.
Yes.
Quickly, cheaply. Why should people trust Lagos Waterways?
Well, you have to trust Lagos Waterways because the truth about it is that the fastest way for you to get to anywhere. Let's give an example. If I was coming from Ikorodu now, I'm sure I'll probably not be here for this interview this morning. But if you came by the waterways, you would be here maximum, even if the boat is going really slow. 30 minutes, you know there's no traffic, there's nothing. It's a faster way. And what the state government has done is to carry out what we call also like a multimodal system, right? First of all, we started with the road, then we moved to the water, and now you know that the government is working on the rail actively. But the whole idea is that even now at our jetties, we have what we call intermodal service, where as you come down from the jetties, there is the last mile buses, which are placed at strategic positions to get you to your last mile. So obviously it makes things quicker for you. And with the carry card being introduced, it will be much easier to transit between all these modes of transportation.
So why is it that, what's happening with the big players? I think Uber was trying to come into the sector. Caverton, we took a story on them the other day, they make boats now. But we're not seeing a lot of the big players because we should have liberalized sector. And another thing I want to talk to you about is, jetties that are created overnight. Can I use the word substandard jetties? I think along that route, when you look at along that route, there's a jetty that is just in Ajah. It's not the Badore one. Okay. There's one, I think it's Ofin Beshi or something, that goes to that area. There's a jetty that was just created, it's just raft of sand, no real anchor point. And what are you guys doing as regards that? And are they, predetermined jetties across that route? Okay.
Let's also remember, let me backtrack a bit to what happened. Now, back then, those jetties were built by the local governments. And a lot of the times when they're built like that, there is the need for that. But however, when LASWA was established in 2008, it started to then take those existing infrastructure because we didn't want to replicate going to go and start building new jetties. Why don't we optimize those existing ones? So what the state government decided to do was rehabilitate those ones and put what we call floating pontoons, because most of the ones we speak about are what we call concrete jetties, where it's hard to embark and disembark. It becomes difficult. But with the floating pontoons, it enables you to safely embark and disembark on those boats. Secondly, it allows for multiple berthing at the same time. With a lot of those jetties we spoke about, one at a time they're berthing. But with the floating pontoon now, they can berth with 5, 6, 10 boats. But what we also do, because an ongoing thing as well is ongoing enforcement, if we notice we go around doing inspections. If any jetty has not gotten the approval from the required state or federal agency, that jetty will be shut down until you do the appropriate thing. And if anybody notices, because we have numbers which we encourage people to call. Call if you notice and see anything. We will move to
What's
action.
That number?
Is either you call the 767 or 112, or you call the 0809 012 9777 or 0809 012 9888. And we would obviously move as swiftly as we can to action, because it's a growing sector and we just have to keep making sure we do what we should do. But you spoke about investment and you spoke about Uber, which was very, very interesting. You spoke about it. Now, Uber came in, and I'm sure you know Uber never likes to own any assets. What they did was partner with an existing boat operator and say, okay, can we run this service? And when they saw the cost of running water transportation, and they realized, okay, we're doing this in India, but India, the government subsidizes a lot more. And so we know that there has to be that government subsidy, which now government is now doing through all the things it's doing to be able to enable it thrive. Because that's when Uber came in. It was just a 2-week pilot, and they said, okay, we can't do this here because we're not yet ready with everything we have, and we want a lot more government subsidy to come into the sector.
Can you take us through, what else, lessons learned, safety measures to be implemented as a result of the strategy? You spoke about the mistake that people can make sometimes, and you're feeling slightly uncomfortable, you take off your life jacket. What is going to be done about that? What can possibly be done? Can you take us through that to make sure the monitoring doesn't stop just at the point of when you embark on the boat?
First of all, we are the regulatory authority, so we must take responsibility for this, first of all, and it's something that we must make sure we increase our safety procedures, even at the jetties, and be much more stricter. But secondly as well, please, we always encourage every passenger going on the waterways, check your life jacket. It's your duty. Some people, because they don't even want the operators' life jackets, they buy their own life jackets and hold it with them. And there's nothing. Yeah, you can pack it well nicely, put it in your bag and take it to work. We have a number of people who do that. But make sure, first things first, that your life jacket is well strapped, has no hole in it, and also observe, look at your boats, find out, is there anything I'm noticing that I'm not comfortable with? And please immediately, that's why we have our water guards at those jetties. Tell them they would stop that boat from moving, and because that's the whole point. So really, it's all about the passengers becoming more aware. We as well doing our job of course, continuously inspecting and monitoring all of these activities.
All right, thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your time.